Hello class 7 students, welcome back to the geography class. Today we are going to start chapter 5, Weather and Climate. Learning objectives: Weather, forms of condensation, weather forecasting, climate, precipitation, elements of weather and climate, significance of weather and climate. Let's warm up. Answer the following questions. How is cloud formed? Second, what do the blue arrows represent? Third, what do the red arrows represent? Application skills. Weather is what is currently happening in respect of the sun. The temperature, the wind, and the precipitation outside in the air, between the clouds and the ground. Climate is different than weather. Climate is what weather is like for long periods of time. Long periods of time for climate usually refers to what the weather is like for over 3 decades or 30 years. Climate is what the patterns of long-term weather are in any particular region. Climate refers to the average temperature and sunshine over 30 years for a specific region. Climate refers to the average rainfall or precipitation over a specific region for a long period of time. Climate refers to the average wind and wind speed over long periods of time. Weather helps us to decide what we wear each day, but climate helps us decide what types of clothing we need for each season. Different regions have different climates. One region might have long, hot, humid summer, and another season might have long, hot, dry summers. There are many factors that affect climate. The sun and how close the clouds are the main differences between climate. That weather is referring to short term and climate is referring to long time. The rainforest is a region that has a wet and warm climate, yet the desert has a dry and hot climate, and the polar regions have a climate that has long and cold winters. Answer the following questions. A. Define climate in your own words. B. What is the difference between climate and weather? C. What factors can affect climate? D. Describe what the climate is like where you live. E. Why does the equator affect climate? F. Describe the climate for 4 seasons where you live. Weather is an ever-changing element of our environment. Human life on earth is influenced more by weather than any other element of the physical environment. Today, the newspapers, radio, and television report a wide range of weather events regularly. They also provide information about the weather conditions likely to occur during the coming days. This shows the great importance that weather conditions assume in our lives. For thousands of years, scientists have tried to predict the weather. The study of weather and its elements is known as meteorology. Climate. The climate refers to the average weather conditions prevailing at a place recorded over a long time period. It is one of the basic elements of our natural environment. It affects the landforms, vegetation, soil types, agriculture, etc. The kind of clothes that we wear, the food we eat, and the house in which we live are intimately related to the climate. Weather and climate greatly influence our day-to-day life and economic activities. Thus, a systematic study of the various elements of weather and climate is necessary. Elements of weather and climate. Temperature. The atmospheric temperature refers to the degree of hotness or coldness of air. The sun is the main source of heat and light of the earth. It continuously radiates heat energy. This is known as solar radiation. The earth is very small compared to the sun and is 150 million kilometers away from it. Therefore, it receives only 1 out of 2 billion parts of the total radiation of the sun. The amount of solar energy received by the earth is called insolation. The earth's surface absorbs maximum solar radiation during the day. At night, the heat which was absorbed during the day is radiated back. This is called terrestrial radiation. Fact file. On the Fahrenheit scale, the melting point of ice is 32 degree Fahrenheit and the boiling point of water is 212 degree Fahrenheit. On the Celsius scale, it is 0 degree Celsius and 100 degree Celsius respectively. Measurement of temperature. The temperature of the air can be measured with the help of a thermometer. Two scales are generally used to measure the temperature: the centigrade scale and the Fahrenheit scale. The standard unit of measuring temperature in our country is degree Celsius. Distribution of temperature. On the basis of the amount of heat received, the earth has been divided into three heat zones: torrid zone, temperate zone, and the frigid zone. Factors affecting temperature. There are several factors which affect the temperature at different places. Heat zone, torrid zone. Locations of the region: Northern Hemisphere between equator and Tropic of Cancer, Southern Hemisphere between equator and Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 degree south. Features: receives maximum insolation. Second, sun's rays are almost vertical throughout the year. Third, hottest part of the earth. Temperate zone. Regions: Northern Hemisphere between Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degree north, and Arctic Circle, 66.5 degree north. B. Southern Hemisphere between Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 degree south, and Antarctic Circle, 66.5 degree south. Features: 1. Receives moderate insolation. Second, region enjoys moderate temperature. Third, neither too cold nor too hot. Third, frigid zone. Regions: Northern Hemisphere between the Arctic Circle, 66.5 degree north, and North Pole. Southern Hemisphere between the Antarctic Circle, 66.5 degree south, and South Pole. Receives minimum insolation. Sun's rays are slanting throughout the year. Number 1. Latitude. As the Earth's surface is curved and the sun's rays strike at varying angles, there are variations in temperature from the equator to the poles. The latitude of a place determines the angle of sun's rays and the duration of daylight. Therefore, at the equator, the rays of the sun are vertical and the duration of daylight is longer, while at the poles, duration of daylight decreases. Hence, there is a distinct decrease in the temperature from the equator to the poles. Second, altitude. The atmosphere is mainly heated by the Earth's heated surface. The lower layers of air are denser, contain more water vapor and dust particles, and so absorb more heat. With the increase in altitude, the thinner air is unable to hold the same amount of heat. The rate at which the temperature decreases with increase in height is known as normal lapse rate. Therefore, hill stations like Shimla, Darjeeling, Mussoorie, etc. are cooler than places situated in the plains. Third, distance from the sea. Places along the coast usually experience moderate climate where the range of temperature is not high. Unlike landlocked regions, this is because coastal regions experience the moderating effect of the sea. Land gets heated faster than the sea, but it also cools down faster. The oceans take long to heat up, but once heated, take longer to cool down. So when coastal areas heat up, winds from the sea cool it. And when coastal areas cool down, heat is transferred from the still warm oceans to the land, warming it. Fourth, prevailing winds. Winds help in heat transfer. If the wind is warm, then it raises the temperature of the area over which it blows. Similarly, cold winds lower the temperature of the region over which they blow. Number 5. Ocean currents. The warm currents from equatorial regions which move to higher latitudes have a warming influence on the coastal areas, ensuring that the seaports remain open and do not freeze. When the cold currents from Arctic regions move towards the south at lower latitudes, they freeze many parts, resulting in closing down of operations. Number 6. Slope of land. In the mountainous regions, the slopes in the south receive direct heat of the sun and are hotter compared to the slopes in the north. Hence, the southern slopes are completely unsuitable for agriculture. Atmospheric pressure. Air is a mixture of several gases and has weight. It therefore presses the ground. This push of atmosphere on the surface is called atmospheric pressure. The whole atmosphere is held around the earth due to the gravitational force of the earth. The atmosphere pressure can be measured by an instrument called barometer. The normal atmospheric pressure at sea level is about 76 centimeter of the mercury column in the barometer. The pressure varies from place to place and from time to time. The variations in the atmospheric pressure are due to temperature of the air, density of the air, height of the place above the sea level, amount of moisture present in the air. The air which rests on the earth's surface expands on being heated and becomes light. It rises upward and creates an area of low pressure. In contrast, the cold air contracts, becomes heavy and settles down. This creates an area of high pressure. Air moves from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure. The weight of the atmospheric pressure on our body is several tons, but we are rarely aware of it. This is because while air presses our body from all sides, our body also exerts counter pressure to balance it. The tendency of the atmospheric pressure is that it decreases with an increase in temperature, it decreases with an increase in altitude. Moist air exerts less pressure than dry air. The Earth's rotation modifies its distribution. In this image, you can see pressure and wind belts of the world. Winds. When the air blows, we can easily feel its presence. It is called a wind. Just as water flows from the higher level to a lower level, the surface wind blows from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure. This is how winds are caused. Winds can be broadly divided into three types. Number 1, permanent winds. These winds blow constantly throughout the year in a particular direction. Trade winds, westerlies are permanent winds. Seasonal winds. These winds change their direction in different seasons. Monsoon in India is a good example of seasonal wind. Number 3, local winds. These winds blow only during a particular period of the day or year in a small area. Loo, land and sea breezes are some local winds. Moisture. Another important constituent of air is moisture. Air contains a large amount of water vapor. It exists in solid, liquid and gaseous states. The amount of moisture present in the air varies from place to place and from time to time. The air in the equatorial region has more moisture than other regions of the world. The air has more moisture during the summer season than during the winter season. The amount of moisture decreases with the increase in height above the mean sea level. The amount of moisture is almost zero in the cold air of the polar regions during the winter months. In the loop, the word insulation has been derived from incoming solar radiation. Evaporation. Evaporation adds water vapor to the atmosphere in the form of moisture. Evaporation converts liquid water into gaseous state water vapor. Water vapor is also added to the atmosphere through transpiration by plants. It occurs at all temperatures and at all times and is the highest in summer during the hot and dry season. If the temperature of the air rises, its capacity to hold the moisture increases. If it is cooled, its capacity to hold moisture is reduced. The air is saturated when it holds as much moisture as it can at a given temperature, and this is known as dew point. Humidity. The actual amount of water vapor present in the air is called humidity. It is closely related to the air pressure when the air holds the maximum amount of water vapor at a given temperature. The air is said to be saturated. An important and useful way of expressing the level of humidity is in terms of relative humidity. It is defined as the ratio between the actual amount of water vapor present in the air at a given temperature and the maximum capacity of the air to hold moisture at that temperature. Relative humidity is always expressed in percentage, while absolute humidity determines the amount of precipitation. It is relative humidity which tells us about its possibility. Condensation, the temperature at which the air gets saturated, is called the dew point. Think smarter. The sun powers the evaporation process on Earth via solar energy. What will happen if the saturated air is cooled even more? So much so that its temperature goes below the dew point. The extra amount of water vapor, which cannot be held by the air any longer, is converted into droplets of water or ice particles floating in the air. This process is known as condensation. Forms of condensation. Number 1. Clouds. A dense visible mass of water droplets or ice crystals in the air. Mist. Droplets of water suspended in the atmosphere close to the surface of the earth. Fog. A dense cloud of water droplets close to the ground. Frost. A coating of ice left when moisture in the air freezes. Number 5. Dew. Tiny drops of water that condense on the ground or other surface. Number 6. Hail. Ice pellets falling from clouds. Precipitation. When the water droplets within clouds become too heavy to stay suspended in the air, they fall on the ground as rain. Snow, hail or sleet, that is all varied forms of precipitation. It is measured with the help of rain gauge. Rainfall is the most common form of precipitation, and the three kinds of precipitation are relief, conventional and cyclone. Number 1. Relief rainfall. When a wind blowing from the sea and saturated with water vapor reaches a mountain, it starts rising along its slope. On rising, the clouds reach the thinner layers of air and consequently expand. Expansion produces cooling. The moisture in the clouds is thus condensed and falls as rain. Such rainfall is called relief rainfall. This is the picture of relief rainfall. Number 2. Convectional rainfall. We know that when air is heated, it tends to rise. As it rises, it gets cooled and rain falls even though there are no mountains nearby. The hot air at the equator rises almost each day of the year. As it rises, it gets cooled. By afternoon, it has got cooled so much so that heavy rain starts pouring down. Thus, in countries close to the equator, it rains almost every afternoon. This type of rainfall is called convectional rainfall. In this image, you can see convectional rainfall. Number 3. Cyclonic rainfall. In the temperature, low pressure belts, cyclonic precipitation occur, where westerlies meet the cold polar easterlies. Warm winds expand and being lighter, rise over the heavier cold winds that sink below them. In this image, you can see cyclonic rainfall. As the winds rise, evaporation and condensation takes place, followed by the precipitation, which creates cyclones that travel with the westerlies and cause heavy precipitation. Large parts of Western Europe experience this kind of cyclonic rainfall. Significance of weather and climate. Both the weather and climate play very significant role in our day-to-day lives. The knowledge of weather keeps the farmers up to date, which is very helpful for their agriculture activities such as plowing, sowing, harvesting, etc. All the national and international flights are operated under favorable weather conditions. Weather forecast provides prior information about the arrival of floods, storms, cyclones, etc. Weather forecast. It is a complex process. It is done by meteorologists with the help of sophisticated devices and instruments. They record the changes in the temperature, air pressure, wind, humidity, etc. These records are collected from various weather stations. Meteorologists are the people who study these records and calculate the future conditions. On the basis of these weather-related records, we are informed about the future weather conditions through TV, radio and newspaper. Weather forecast is important for aviation purposes also. Value and life skills. The climate and weather is changing all around the world. This is because of the global warming. The heat on the surface of the earth is increasing gradually, affecting the overall temperature. We experience longer summer season and short but chilling winters. This is serious issue and we must take initiative to control this disaster. Recapitulation. Weather and climate differ in terms of the measurement, defines in terms of measurement of time. Temperature, pressure, humidity, wind, rainfall, sunshine, and precipitation are the various elements of weather and climate. Based upon the amount of heat received, the earth is divided into three heat zones: torrid, temperate, and frigid. The three kinds of winds are permanent, seasonal, and local winds. Humidity refers to the moisture content of the air around us, which is contingent on its temperature. Mist, fog, dew, and frost are the important forms of condensation. Precipitation can occur in the form of rain, sleet, snow, and hail. Relief, convectional, and cyclonic are the three types of rainfall. Thank you, class. Let's meet again in the next chapter.